Freedom Party. We had Sodelpa leader Rote Mumu Kepa last night, and tonight we have OneFiji Party president and leader, Mr. Filimoni Vosarogo. Mr. Vosarogo, first of all, definitely you had to rehash some plans to ensure that you are here on our show tonight. So thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Vijay.
Now, Mr. Vosarogo is here, and we will be talking to him. At the same time, you can ask questions. The number to call is 3314766. The number again, 3314766. Make that call and ask your question. And you are also listening to Viti FM or Radio Sargam live. We will be here until 8:30, and at the same time, we will have many questions coming through from you. Whatever issues you may be interested in as we approach the elections, the general elections. Polling day, of course, is on September 17th, and confirmation coming through this afternoon that we will have the candidate numbers draw on Sunday morning. So on Sunday, you will find out the candidates' names drawn with the numbers. As you know that in this year's elections, everyone will have a unique number, and that unique number will then form that ballot paper with all numbers. So you have to identify your number, your candidate's number, and ensure that you go and tick, cross or circle that number come September 17th. So the draw for that candidate name and number will take place on Sunday starting at 9 a.m. and the elections officer, the supervisor of elections, has confirmed that the elections office will have the draw from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and by that time everyone will know. The reason for the delay is because there's a lot of objections in relation to candidates, and they have to ensure that that is sorted out before the confirmed list of candidates is known. Now, we all set, Mr. Vosarogo. First question for you: why form the OneFiji Party?
Thank you, Vijay. The OneFiji Party is a new initiative, an association of people or citizens of Fiji who realize that over the years government has failed to deliver on its promises of raising the standard of living for all its citizens. We realize that life is getting harder and will continue to get harder if we cannot put a final resolve or a new thrust of new and bold leadership into the national stage, so to speak, so that issues that needs to be resolved can be resolved in what we say is a brand new way of resolving issues. We have we see what we've always identified it to be, what Dr. Martin Luther King referred to in his time, which he says that, he rises up because of the urgency of now. There is such a thing as being too late. We believe that our time to rise to the stage of national leadership is now, and put some resolutions and final resolutions on issues that needs to be addressed as a nation, so that we can stop the impact of continuing to lag behind while all other nations are running well ahead of us in terms of economic development, in terms of racial relation resolutions, in terms of raising standard of living for all its citizens. We identified that in the last 27 years, that's really been the main issue for Fiji. And it's time that we put our hands up. It's time that we all come together as a nation, not just one political party. In this election, there's going to be 7 political parties. That's a very healthy exercise. The way we see it, it's a very healthy exercise, because the nation of Fiji and citizens of Fiji will then have a platform to choose from and say, which of these political parties best represents the interest that I would like to be represented in the House of Representatives.
Now, you're talking about 27 years ago, so definitely it's from the first coup that occurred in Fiji. Not that I want to expose your age, but how old were you when the first coup occurred in 1987, May 14th?
I think I was 11 years. 11 years.
Must have been difficult. How did you take it?
Well, I had a personal spin to this whole story, Vijay.
Right.
And I elaborated on that during the launching of the party last Friday. I mentioned my personal story, standing in on the corridors of.
Where were you?
I wouldn't exactly know. I think what is probably now registry, just in the corridor, heading into that Parliament building.
Right. At the courthouse.
At the courthouse.
Right.
I don't know whether there were courthouses there at that time, but that was my second trip into Viti as a visitor, and it was on that morning when soldiers in balaclava and crisp uniform, where they were marching past, and the grandfather that brought me there quickly took my hand, and we said I had to go right back to the bar stand. We didn't know what had happened, and I was class 6 at that time. But I think the impact of that incident in 1987 repeated itself again in 2000, repeated itself again in 2006, and we just can't seem to find our way out. And at the same time, our economy has been affected greatly. That question still lurks. When are we going to ever resolve these issues and move forward as a country in the 21st century?
We'll go to the next question on resolving issues now. But before we go there, one of the issues that you raised, and it's an important one, based on the electoral system that we have now. We have 7 registered political parties. Now, do you think it is a good idea to have so many parties, and this would result in the splitting of the votes and the danger of some parties not reaching the 5% threshold and getting knocked out? That is a reality at the moment, because the votes will be split. Whichever party is lucky will get the 5% threshold.
Yes.
That is a big ask. If more than 500,000 people vote, you'll need about 25,000 as the 5% threshold. What do you think of that?
Well, it goes right back to how you strategize and how you see your chances are in the upcoming election. We looked at that as a party, and we looked at the time in which we were given the final okay by the Supervisor of Elections Office, just a day before the writ of elections was issued, and we looked at how we could maximize our time out with the public and the electorate, and also to give them ideas of who we are and elaborate on our policies with them. So we couldn't, it was utterly impossible for a party like ours, new to the scene, to field more than 20 or 25 or even 50 candidates. That would just not be a strategic thing to do. So 14 for us, well now 13, is a good number, and something that we can go to the electorate for, identify our areas of strength, and seek for their vote.
Okay, and you don't believe that with 7 parties, some parties will be knocked out by not getting the 5% threshold?
I said, Vijay, that might be a possibility. We're certainly not one of them.
You sure?
We certainly are not going to be one of them that will be knocked out. That's for sure.
Very confident there, Mr. Vosarogo. Now, callers have started to come in. You can call us on 3314766. That's the number to call if you want to ask any questions. We have OneFiji Party President and leader, Mr. Filimoni Vosarogo, tonight talking about policies or why the OneFiji Party has been formed as we go closer to Election Day on September 17th. Now, we have a caller from Mbua. Tui is calling from Mbua. His question is on Itoke land. Mbula vinaka Tui.
Is our land, the Itaukei land, is it guaranteed under this constitution or not?
Is our Itoke land guaranteed under the constitution or not?
All right, thank you, Tui. The opinion or the views that I will share with you are, of course, the views that I hold. They are the views of OneFiji Party. There will be other parties that will have different views, and so I want you to see that in that context. When I look at the Constitution, when we look at the Constitution and the guarantee of Fijian or Itaukei land in the Constitution, you can see that in earlier constitutions there were no specific provision on indigenous or Itaukei land. You could say that in the 2013 Constitution is the only Constitution that has that particular provision. It guarantees that Itaukei land cannot be sold, cannot be devolved into any other parties except to the state, or be permanently alienated. In other words, you can't turn it into a freehold, you can't turn it into other fee simple. But what it also creates, Tui, is, we're dealing with permanent alienation. A 99-year lease is not a permanent alienation, but the impact of that is equally something that indigenous people or indigenous landowners will have to properly evaluate, because if a land or a piece of land has been removed for 99-year lease from Itaukei landowners, you're talking about 3 generations of people. So it's you can see it in the context. Whilst the Constitution protects the Itaukei land as a right to their land, it does not provide the absolute, it does not provide the absolute protection, in the sense that it can be leased. It can be given to somebody who's, say, in a land bank, for instance. You can send it on a land bank, and that would take the land right away from the landowners for that particular period of time.
But at the same time, Mr. Vosarogo, just a follow-up question here. First of all, let's start off with Section 28 of the Constitution, a protection of Itaukei, Rotuman and Banaban land. The ownership of all Itaukei land shall remain with the customary owners of that land, and Itaukei land shall not be permanently alienated, whether by sale, grant, transfer, or exchange, except to the state, in accordance to Section 27, which talks about if it's needed for state facilities. Now, any Itaukei land acquired by the state for a public purpose after the commencement of the Constitution or under any written law shall revert to the customary owners if the land is no longer required by the state. So that there's a guarantee there that the land will be returned to the Itaukei landowners. You can confirm that based on what's in the Constitution?
Of course it is. Vijay.
Now, on to my next question on land use decree, because there's also different point of views from the different parties. According to the current government, they are saying the land use decree is in place, and anyone who wants to deposit land in the land bank, they need to ensure that 60% of the land members of the landowning unit or Matangali have to say yes to it. Now, do you agree with that, or you believe that everyone should agree, or because once they agree, and if it's a 99-year lease, then you're stuck with that, and it's a decision that is made by this group of people who exist now if they decide to do that. What's your comment on that?
Well, firstly, let me say the OneFiji Party position on land use decree. We don't agree with the decree.
Right.
We think that as soon as we get into Parliament, we should go and outlaw that decree. It's a decree that you're going to have to find a justification for why it was birthed in the beginning. Because when I look through the decree, all it has set up is a singularity of power in the hands of one single person, and that's the Prime Minister's position. But quite apart from that, the functions of what is intended to be achieved in the land use decree can equally be achieved under the Native Land Trust Board.
But there's a difference there as far as landowners are concerned, because if you deposit the land in the land bank, you get market rates.
Yes.
Under the Itoke Land Trust Board, you don't get that. And then you have other fees, like the poundage fees, so certain percentage is taken off. In this case, there's no fees. I'm just saying that the differences, of course, people have their decision, this is good, this is bad, but what's your main reason? You're just saying that because you want to ensure that one person doesn't make the decision?
Well, it's just not a... You have to appreciate the vibrancy of a democratic process. And you have to appreciate that in some instances people are going to differ in opinions. Say, for example, in the native land, in leases that are taken out of Native Land Trust Board, or in Native Land Trust Act, there is always that tripartite forum. You always have the trustee of the Native Land Trust Board. You have the landowner, and you have the lessee. And rates are revised. If you have good yield this year, there is always a revision of your rate. But in the land bank, you don't have the landowner as part of that equation, period. You just have the government and the lessee. And you as a landowner, you are removed from that equation completely for the entire period of the lease. That's why I keep coming back
while you get market rental.
Yes. Well, I keep coming back to that issue of generations. This generation might give that off because there was a need that exists in this generation. The next one might live in totally different time, and so there's a need for us to be very, very aware of this dynamics.
So your stand is, if you come into government, of course you got 13 people and you cannot make the change on your own, who's your likely coalition partner then in government to make sure that they listen or go the same way as you?
Well, we have that party position. We'll see which parties would be speaking along the same line.
Which party is speaking along the same line for you at the moment?
Well, I can see...
You would have made an assessment already.
Well, at the moment, we've made an assessment. We've made an assessment of who's saying what.
Right.
But what we are not in a position to say at the moment, it's not because we're hiding it, but because we have not made a decision, is our coalition partners. We will not make that decision until after the election.
Okay. Because similar issues are being raised by Sodelpa.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be able to go into a coalition if you win a few seats and form government?
Oh, yes.
Yes?
Yes.
You believe you have similar ideals and principles that you're taking forward in these elections?
Well, we have similar ideas with them. I think we also have very similar ideals with PDP and NNFP.
That's interesting. We'll go further into that tonight, talking about OneFiji. Party leader Mr. Filimoni Vosarogo is on our show tonight. Straight Talk with Vijay Narayan, live on Viti FM and Radio Sargam and Bula Vinaka. Also to everyone listening out there, if you're around the grog bowl, if you're just sitting around in the living room with your family members enjoying this show, we will have a lot more of this coming in the next 1 hour or so. And at the same time, those listening out there outside Fiji, we had a lot of interest shown through our live streaming from Australia, from New Zealand, from Germany, from China, from France, from Kuwait, so from the US, from Canada. So again, Bula Vinaka to all of you out there listening to our program tonight. Now, another caller is online, Sam from Deumba. And he's got a specific question for you, Mr. Vosarogo. Sam, Bula Vinaka.
my question is to the leader, what is his promise to the people of Fiji in this coming election?
Well, thank you, Sam. Like all other parties, we can't digest it into just one promise. There's multi facets of deliverables that we want to share with you as the voters. If I were to pick out something that I want to talk to you about in the area of, I'd say Vijay, if I can talk about the area of education. In education, we see that over the years, our secondary schools and tertiary education and tertiary institutions have all put out about 12 to 14,000 students into the labor market. We only have about, at best, 2,500. If you stretch it to about 3,000 of jobs that are available annually. So you're probably looking at about 8 to 9,000 of people, of our young, energetic young men and women who will not be able to find a job. In terms of our education policy, what we want to share with the electorate is we want to ensure that there is a revision of our education policies. And one of the key things that we want to share with the electorate is a redefining of what our education policy is earmarked to achieve. We want to make sure that our people who graduate, our young people who graduate out of Fiji, are not only capable and fit for the local job market, but they are also capable and fit to compete for a job on a global scale.
Everyone is saying that. Every party is saying that. What will be different for you? How will you deliver that?
Well, is every party saying that?
Yes.
We're the only ones we're hearing saying that at the moment.
Okay.
We want to see that there is a global initiative to our education policy. That means we gotta have to raise the standard of our local education and benchmark it to world standard, so that our graduates from here can compete with jobs in Australia and New Zealand.
You think that's not happening at the moment?
Well,
we've got people working everywhere in the world.
Yes, of course, but we're not still dealing with the issue of the 9,000 and 8,000 that are coming out.
You want to churn out more.
We want to churn out more
standard,
so that that goes out into the global workforce, and the return of that is the receipts that we get from foreign remittances. So all of these things is tied up together. So Sam, the thing that we want to stress with you, OneFiji Party wants to stress with you, is having a holistic view now about our education policy, being realistic about what it supplies to the local market, and to try and identify areas on the global stage where we can supply that. We can supply nursing, we can supply private security, we can supply trade into aging countries like in the Asian countries, like in Japan. We can supply plumbers into those countries. So those are the things that we need to redefine. We need to redefine our education policy so that we're not only supplying locally, and we know that there's only so much that we can capture. It's a very small economy, so we gotta have to look beyond our shores and see how much of the world that is out there that our educated people, our young men and young women, are able to go out and meet.
Now, we have a question. Etika from Monikoso has got a question. Bulavinaka Etika.
What is your party stand for the common identity as a Fijian? That's all, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Etika. I was expecting that question, but from Vijay. I know.
You looked very nervous when you came in. Maybe you were thinking of that question.
I thought, I said, look, Vijay is going to shoot me that question. Let me state the OneFiji Party position on common name. We're all for a common name.
Right.
We believe in a common name. We believe in a common national identity. There has to be a common name to every citizen of this country, regardless of race. And I think we got to pause for a moment, Vijay, and just pull us back. we're going on about common name and race. These are two different things. You know, we need to be very clear with our electorate on OneFiji position is. People should not be allowed to play football of a common name and confuse that with race. We should be proud of our racial heritage. I should be proud of my heritage, and so should you. And my Chinese friend, he should be proud of his heritage. We want to have a common name that is common to every Fijian, that they feel proud of having, because after all, we are saluting the same blue and signs of the Fiji flag. We're seeing the same land of freedom, hope and glory. What you can't have is a stolen name. And that's what we want to be very clear about as a OneFiji party position. We believe that the name Fijian is an identity, not just a name, it is an identity to a particular race. Right? It's an identity to a particular race. I think in 1997 Constitution there was a reference to everybody being a Fiji Islander. I think that's
it was Fiji Islander.
Fiji Islander, and people were belong to their own different races. I know that in some parliamentary sessions there were some callings that name calling of races that were very unfortunate. But let me just take us back, Vijay, and say,
I'm just interested in you saying you can't have a stolen name, so let's just go there.
Yeah. Well,
we'll keep going back, and we've got more questions coming in.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
We get more questions through. So, stolen name.
Stolen name is
what is
the
a stolen
Fijian name?
Fijian name is a stolen name in the Constitution?
That's our position.
Yeah, I know.
That's the position of OneFiji
Okay.
party. And the position goes back to that cabinet decision. We stumbled upon this on one news in the afternoon, and a cabinet decision has been passed, and everybody is going to be known as a Fijian. Vijay, the total population of Fiji is about
890,000 plus?
500 and something.
That's you're talking about indigenous
Fijians.
Yes.
These large part of our population were, to my view, not consulted about the name change. They were not consulted. And even if there was some consultation, there was no evidence of such consultation. So I want to come back to that and say, we believe, I said that earlier, I believe entirely in people of Fiji being patriotic about our national identity. Race should never be mistaken for our national identity. We should be proud nationals of Fiji, but at the same time, we should be proud of our racial heritage. I should be proud as a Fijian, and so should you, Vijay.
So what will you do? Because it's in the Constitution.
Well, that's what that's what we have to go.
That's your stand.
Parliament.
What will you do?
It's something that we have to go raise
You'll
in
change
Parliament. We'll change it.
Will you change it?
Well,
your voters want to know.
Yeah.
Tonight, if OneFiji party comes into power with someone else that they form a coalition with,
Yes.
will they remove the common name to be Fijian and have something else?
Yes.
You will do that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back. Straight Talk with Vijay Narayan on Viti FM and Radio Sargam.
Jarvis, status report.
I'm sorry, sir. We've lost auxiliary power. Shutdown sequence initiated.
Don't do this to me, Jarvis. Just a little further.
Negative, sir. My components are old and out of date.
Oh, come on, man. Where am I supposed to get quality computer components from then?
Go to Bondwell, sir.
Jarvis?
Bondwell, Fiji's #1 in IT. Quality IT products, laptops, smartphones, and accessories. Looking to build your own computer? See Bondwell for all your part requirements. We also stock security cameras, power protection, printers, and so much more. Bondwell, Fiji's #1 in IT. Welcome back to Straight Talk with Vijay and Narayan, brought to you by Bondwell.
Good evening. You on Viti FM, Radio Sargam, and video streaming right around the world and around the country for this special Talkback, Straight Talk. And tonight in studio, OneFiji Party Leader Filimoni Vosarogo. You can call us with your questions. Number to call 3314766. That number again, 3314766. If you have any questions for Mr. Vosarogo. Mr. Vosarogo, just in relation to that common name, just you said a change will be made if you go into government. Form a coalition with a like-minded party. Now, what is your thinking if you change, if you remove that Fijian cannot be used by everyone in the country? What's your thinking? So Fijian just for the indigenous Fijians, and what name would suit everyone else?
Well, that's a very pertinent issue, Vijay. I think, for us, it would be wrong for us to try and enforce a name. I think it'll have to be put through a proper parliamentary process, right? There has to be if there has to be a referendum done, there has to be a referendum done. But there has to be an appreciation that we are made up of a group of islanders or group of people who have views. And it has to be filtered down to some common denominators.
Now, one of the issues is that that name Fijian, and based on what is in the constitution, it's talking about citizenship. That you're a citizen of Fiji, so you're Fijian. It does not specifically say if you are indigenous Fijian race. What do you say to that?
That's why I go back to the decision that was made by this government prior to the constitution. That process will have to be revisited again, because when it was implemented in an imposed way. Right? It was implemented in an imposed way, and a lot of indigenous Fijians who felt like, there's something that has now been taken away from them and shared with everybody.
You think a lot of them feel that way?
Well, the people that we've spoken to have very strong views, not so much about now having to share a name, but it's so much about not being consulted about it. I think that's where most of the grievances is. Something that they've cherished. I cherish that identity myself. And people feel that, when that has been done to them and they have not been consulted, of course there's going to be feelings of being disenfranchised now, feelings of not being consulted, and so it's going to have a little bit of pain in them. So I think that's it's a fair assessment to make that. This is a name that has now been taken away from a group of people, 500,000 of them, in an entire global or Earth population of 7 billion, right? And now their name, their identity, what goes beyond themselves, what goes backward and goes into the future, identifying their children. It goes right back to when the ancestors came across in those canoes. It's that identity. It's not just a name. It goes right back to the migration that the early our forefathers took to get to this island nation. It also gives. I was going off a bit there, but.
No, just stop your thought there. The other issue there too, you talked about global education, of course, other issues that came up. Yesterday we had an interesting question that we have people in different countries and making Fiji proud, and over there they are called Fijian. For example, Vijay Singh, he's known as a Fijian when he takes on the golf field everywhere he goes. So your standing is he cannot be called a Fijian?
No. Context now, Vijay.
Okay, no. It's clear cut. It's clear cut.
No, it's
so you can be called
important.
Fijian outside of your country, but you can't be. That's the question that came yesterday. I'm just repeating that question.
Let me give you an answer about references in overseas and even references here. You know, when we go overseas, when you and I meet in the street of Sydney, and we are amongst friends, they ask us, "Where are you from?" "I'm from Fiji." "I'm from Fiji." We're Fijians. We're Fijians. In Fiji, if I were to meet my friend here, the Fijian is missing, because he goes right back to where his village is or his province, and I go right back to where my village is in my province. So it's a reference to context, right? It's a reference to context. Of course, it's as I said, Vijay, the Fijians will not.
So you mean
go
the
back.
indigenous Fijians?
The indigenous Fijians will not think somebody has, but it's the fact that they have not been consulted. I think that's the painful thing.
Now you are a lawyer. It's in the Constitution.
Yes.
You are contesting the election under the Constitution. It states that common name has to be Fijian for all Fiji citizens. What's your comment on that?
Well, we're heading into a parliamentary election. We're heading into a national election. That's going to form the next parliamentary, the House of Parliament. And parliamentary process will kick in, right? And this is where all of these things could become issues in the House of Representatives. And this is where parties who want seats will begin to make proposals on what they feel the last 8 years has done for them.
Thank you, Mr. Vosarogo. Our number again, 3314766. Remember, straight talk, asking the question straight online to ensure that when you go on September 17th, you have already heard all the party leaders, what their stand is on different policies before you cast your vote. Now, Norman from Sabu Sabu has a question. Good evening, Norman.
Question is, Vosarogo, the GCC, Great Council of Chiefs, I think it plays a very important role in the future government. Do you agree on that or not?
Thank you, thank you, Norman. From OneFiji party position, the Council of Chiefs represents or is the head of the Fijian administration. The headship of the Fijian administration has to come back. That's the party position. The role it plays within the context of 2014 moving forward after the national election will become something that has to be discussed firstly amongst the chiefs. It has to be a meeting that has to be convened so that the chiefs will look back at the history and look forward and see what would be the relevance of this august body of the Fijian race.
It's an interesting point because it was set up in 1876 by Sir Arthur Gordon. It's not an Itoke setup. It was set up to have some representatives from different places to ensure that they become an advisory body at the time for the colonial administration. Now, what is your thinking going forward?
There has been evolution of that. Evolution of that, and even until 1997, there's been they've now been given powers in the 1997 Constitution. They appointed the president, they appoint the vice president, and they form, or they are part of an advisory role.
They had the positions in Senate.
They have all of those powers that they are able to leverage. The issue that the point that we want to make is all of this will have to understand that there are times, and there are times and where season there are demands. Right now we live in the 21st century, so there are fresh new demands, right? Fresh new demands of the time in which we live in. And I've always taken the example of the House of Lords in England, way back, where it was conceived, where it formed, and over the years up until now, if you look back, it's not in the same position as it's not in the same shape that it originally was designed to be, or was birthed to be. The House of Lords now is more refined, more reformed, given new functionality, given new dynamics, so that their role fits into this time that we are living in.
So what's your plan?
And I think that's going to be...
If you bring back the GCC, you're saying you will bring back the GCC?
Well,
in a reformed structure?
That has to be decided by the chiefs. Our position is, because it holds a position in Fijian headship, it has to be restored. And once it is restored, an advisory can consult with the Council of Chiefs and define functionalities for the Council of Chiefs that would make this body relevant to the time in which we live in.
So OneFiji will bring back the Great Council of Chiefs after meeting with the chiefs. That's your stand?
Yes.
And the issue of... Now, the next issue is, of course, in relation to the party itself, OneFiji. Your policies are quite similar to SODELPA's.
Well,
right now when we're talking. And there was word earlier that you a breakaway from SODELPA.
Yeah.
Are you a breakaway from SODELPA?
No. You asked me that already, or someone else had asked me? I think I was asked that by Stan yesterday. No, we're not a breakaway from SODELPA. As I said, this is a party set up that, if you like, the birthing point goes back last year. Part of the initial discussion was way back in 2009. I said to you, Vijay, that there is a group of young people reading the situation that is happening around in Fiji and identifying that, if we are to resolve the issues of our time, and that is, I'm saying, the issues of the 21st century, then you got to have 21st century solutions, right? And so this is where you'd find similarity in policies. If you read through all the manifestos and the policies of those parties that have issued out their policies, you'd be fair to say that 80% of them speak about the same thing. Everybody wants accessible and affordable healthcare. Everyone is talking about improving the state of our economy. Everybody is talking about re-looking at our education modalities and seeing ways in which we can improve that. Looking at land and utilization. Basically, everybody is on the same page. That's because everyone has a sense of what's happening to our country. Let's move this forward. It's only that they belong to different interest groups, right? And that is where they have their foundation from.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vosarogo. We have a caller online from Lautoka. Kishore is online from Lautoka. Good evening, Kishore.
In fact, I have two questions. But the first one is, the current regime has done a lot of improvement in terms of investment in infrastructure. And there has been a lot of opportunities given to the people. What you have to say on that? Secondly, the cost of living we're talking about. The cost of living is always been high, and it's not only the Fiji has been affected with the cost of living, but the other countries nearby. If you're going to come into power, what is your intents that you're going to do and reduce the cost of living? Thank you, Mr. Vosarogo.
Thank you, Kishore. In fact, the answer to that, Kishore, is really tied to both the questions that you asked. Of course, there has been infrastructural development in the country. New roads that has been put up. There's new hospital blocks, new school blocks that has been constructed. With that comes a debt undertaking that we as the country has to make. And when we have that on as part of our economy, and in the absence of private investments into our economy, of course, what follows is that government will have to try and resuscitate or revive our economy in so that we're able to do debt servicing, we're able to pay what we owe to other countries who have loaned us the monies. And so part of that is getting, part of that natural flow is that the cost of living automatically would increase. If OneFiji party becomes part of the next government, what it intends to do, first and foremost, is it intends to see that there is a revision of all the government expenditures up to date, and to see that when we do that, we got to have to identify areas of investments that is not needed for now, and then reassign that into more productive, more urban-based, more people-based initiatives, so that really comes out as the generating aspect of our economy, and not just spending money into the roads and infrastructure.
Let's talk about roads and infrastructure. It's necessary to have those. Of course, you'll have to spend that to ensure that you have the infrastructure in place. Then you have other facilities coming in. Then you have investments. For example, Natandola is a classic example. There was a lot of issues in the past that Natandola couldn't get off the ground because there was no access as far as road was concerned, no access as far as electricity was concerned, water facilities. Once that was sorted out, then some developers took interest in the place. So do you believe that some places you have to go and take that direction as a government to ensure that you get interested investors in?
Yes, well, absolutely.
How much money should you allocate for that?
Well,
if you were in government, how much money will you allocate for those kind of things?
Well, there has to be a.
You're saying what's happening right now is not right. So, how much will you allocate?
Well, I'm not saying that what's happening right now is not right. What I'm saying is the approach. Let me give you an example.
It's a different way of saying it, but you're saying the same thing.
The approach to national development. Let's see the road that runs from Raki now to Tailevu, Korogo.
Yes.
Right. That road is a beautiful road. You take a drive through, or a lazy drive through on a Saturday morning. It's the most beautiful drive that you can ever take. What's painful in that drive is that you can't find the economic activity that can drive that particular area. So my point is, when I said approach, I'm saying if you are saying this is the way infrastructural development is going to go, there has to be forward planning of what economic activities can be put along this road.
But tax-free cuts or tax holidays have been given for that corridor.
Yes, but at the same time, we're not finding the players to come and take advantage of
What will you do to change that?
Vijay, the only way in which you can boost private investment is to create the climate for it. We will never have private investment until private investors feel confident that this is the right environment to invest. When you have decrees, right, that restricts your access to justice, where you can get reliefs if your investments have not been, is not coming out your way. When you have those kind of decrees, you are really creating an environment where the investors will stand back and say, well, I just don't think that the environment is right. Because that's the assessment that they make. They make assessment on that environment. They make assessment on the rule of law. They make assessment on the total independence of judiciary. They make a whole lot of investor assessments. And so if you have, I pointed out, if they have decrees that restricts access to their reliefs, then obviously that's going to be a point in which they will say, no, this is not the way we should go.
I'll take you to an independent report done by the Asian Development Bank, and they gave a snapshot of Fiji's economy. Growth is projected to moderate to 2.8% this year. Record investment growth levels are expected this year. We can see some of the major projects either have ended or have started. For example, Damodar City complex, they mentioned one. There's a few hotel projects, major projects that are underway. Nandi International Airport is expected to have a revamp. So a few things have been highlighted here. At the same time, so one is investment, they're saying it's picking up. But the other issue is that one downside risk to growth is a large public debt. So my question is first on investment. It's picking up already. What will you do to ensure that it goes further to record levels? There are two things you'll do.
The investment that will be experiencing is public investment, right? We've got to boost private investment.
Yeah, private investment like Damodar City. We have other hotel projects.
That's just one that you have.
No, I've mentioned one, but there's others, as you know.
Yeah. Well, you got to hit the maximum on private investment.
That what will you do? I'm asking, what will you do?
You got to have to create the environment for it.
Right.
You got to have to create the environment.
That's the first thing you'll do. The second thing,
every investor that is out there waiting for the date in which they want to come into
yes,
Fiji.
you did talk to me about environment. What's the second thing?
Is waiting for what's going to happen after September 17th.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. It will boost all growth levels.
Absolutely, and that's what we're looking forward to, getting our investments back to prior to 1987. 1987 was when we hit 25% of investment. We want to get it back to that and shoot it up.
Okay, that's the first thing we'll do. Yeah. Environment. Yeah. What's the second thing?
Well, what we have to create also, we have to create the environment for people to participate.
So, yeah, you've said
investments that going to come in. Yeah. We want to make sure that those who are here, right, who are here in Fiji, are able to participate as well in the economy, right? Participate as well in the economy in terms of, let's say, if I give you an example. The example is with the indigenous Fijians, they hold 87% of the land. 87% of the land that belongs to them. And if you look at the statistics that are given out by the Bureau of Stats, they still have the highest of our unemployment rate, right? Highest of the poverty rate. So you've got to try and unbundle this thing and say, what's the problem? What's the issue? The issue is not that they have the asset. The issue is that they don't have the capital to work the asset. So this is where the government incentives or incentivized government programs could be channeled into, so that, in the past they'll give one knife, they'll give you one fork and one spade, try and do a little farm. We've got to move past that. We've got to move past it so that we can boost the economy. We've got to be looking at incentivized programs, monitored, right? Monitored and seeing that there is a culture of commercialism in it, either if it's either family based or toka based, or people who own land and arable land that they're able to use. Then we've got to up the ante now, because we are under a huge public debt, and the only way in which we can revise that debt is to try and
how will you assist these people? How will you assist these people? Of course, you'll need funding for that.
Yes, of course.
Then that's public debt.
Yes. Well, what we have to do is we've got to go big.
That's a very big word.
I'm giving you a snapshot of what we will unveil now. One of the programs that we want to run as part of our manifesto is Go Wide, Go Green program, and that is not going big, growing wide. It's touching everybody on a lateral level. Schemes, even if it's a small scale scheme, schemes of private investors that are locally based, who are able to participate in the economy, grow what they already have, but on a more marketable on a more expanded marketable sense. If you're looking at people who are, say, farming 2 acres of corn, 2 acres of corn, we could say, what land do you have? And if they say, we've got 20 acres of land that is spared, that is where we can channel in this investment and see that they are able to maximize what they already have, which is their land, so that we can, there's
for
a
private investors, they would want land tenure, security. And you just said earlier...
They already have.
Who?
The people who own the land.
But they would need investors to also come in, pour the money. If not, government will end up giving all the money itself.
I mean, absolutely.
So if you need private investors to come in, of course, they'll need some sense of security. And that's where it comes up to how many years of lease. If I'm pumping in $20 million, I would need some security.
Well, there's
you agree?
There's, of course, there's the possibilities of going into joint ventures, private and public partnership. That's also a platform upon which these programs can be run. So I think if you go back to the initial point that you made, Vijay, once we create the environment, we believe that once you create the environment, these pieces will fit in, right? There is going to be you'll boost the economic status of Fiji. You'll boost the way in which they view coming in with the funding to come and invest in Fiji, and you also create the environment between people who own the land and those who have the cash to come in.
Thank you very much. Neelam is calling in from Nandi. Good evening, Neelam.
In your manifesto, what do you have for persons with disabilities?
What's in? Is your manifesto out already?
Well, Neelam, no, we have not put out our manifesto. We are looking at launching or publishing that maybe early next week. That's because most of this week is going to be tied up in the.
Do you have something specific for people with disabilities?
Neelam, thank you. With the issue of access to those who have disabled bodies, who are disable-bodied, is not something that is a minority issue anymore. This is now become part of our nationalized laws. Things that will have to be provided to those with disabled bodies, who disabled-bodied in terms of transport, in terms of access into buildings, in terms of access into education, fair wages for them. These are all part of things that every government of the day, in any government of the day, will have to make sure that it is adhered to. Those who are disabled in our society do not feel any less privileged or any less a right whilst they are part of our society. So every government will have to work and provide for and even pay for those who are disabled in our society.
Thank you, Mr. Vosarogo. Now, what is your stand on Fiji being a secular state? It's in the Constitution, clearly stated. What is OneFiji Party's position?
Vijay, the position of the OneFiji Party is, we believe in the sovereignty of God over the nation. We believe in the sovereignty of God over all these islands. We believe in the guidance of God, in the passage or in the journey of our forefathers coming from, they say, Lake Tanganyika, where they came from, through the seas to this island nation. We also believe that there was divine guidance to those who came later in the form of indentured laborers and got into these island shores, and to every other that came here because there was a divine design for it. OneFiji Party believes in the sovereignty of God over these islands and the giver of life to all men and all forms of living things. That is the position of OneFiji. You are talking, or the issue of elections, or seemed to be the issue of elections today, is whether you support a secular state or whether you support a Christian state.
But that's what the parties have started to say.
Well, that's what the parties... We're not going to be involved in that. We want to make sure that these islands recognize the sovereignty of God. That's over and above the issue of whether we should adopt secularism or we should recognize Fiji as a Christian state. There are my reading of just a few nations around the world. Those nations who see or profess in their laws identify themselves as Christian states, there is every form of religion is allowed to be practiced. Every form of religion is allowed to be practiced. So is secularism. Every form of religion is allowed to be practiced. Our position is over and above that. Our position is recognizing that there is a divine design in all of creation. And we believe that this nation should acknowledge the arrival of all its people, firstly by the indigenous Fijians, later on by other races, as part of one entire divine design of God. And we need to recognize that. As a nation, as a people all across these 300 islands, we have to recognize that. And the way I put this across to our people is, we've got to understand that we just didn't turn up here. There was a time in which historians say things were rather pretty bad in Fiji. There was a great missile and people were in all sorts of practicing all sorts of beliefs. But there was a point in the history of Fiji, and I think most people will identify with this. There was a point in the history of Fiji where something came onto Lakemba Island, right? And what happened in Lakemba Island was the arrival of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that gospel was the thing that caused our forefathers to drop the clubs of their warfare. And they say, we're not going to do this anymore. And we're going to subscribe to these values, to these teachings, to become the binding, foundational belief of who we are. And that is the thing that we want. Our constitution, we want our government, we want our people to recognize.
Okay, so in the constitution, first issue under secular state is religious belief is personal. Do you agree with that?
It is both personal, it is also communal.
Okay, thank you. The other one is religion and the state are separate, which means the state and all persons holding public office must treat all religions equally.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes. The state and all persons holding public office must not dictate any religious belief.
Yes.
The state and all persons holding public office must not prefer or advance by any means any particular religion, religious denomination, religious belief, or religious practice over another or over any non-religious belief.
Of course, of course.
No person shall assert any religious belief as a legal reason to disregard this constitution or any other law.
What did you say?
No person shall assert any religious belief as a legal reason to disregard this constitution or any other law.
Yes, well, we're not asking for anything to be disregarded. We're asking for
that is
something
already
to
in
be
the
recognized.
section. Okay, so you want something on
That
top of that.
recognition, yes.
Thank you very much. Now, we have another call. Raj from Lautoka calling. Good evening, Raj.
What can you do about the land issues? among the people of Fiji here, like for squatter settlements, not getting the proper lease and as to get the tenancy at will. And the second one is like this government has done a lot for education, like it's been free for other people. So if you come into the power, you keep that same trend as a free education, or you do some changes up there?
All right. Well, thank you, Raj. I'll answer your first question first. Regarding land issues, and did you say squatter settlement, the squatter issue? The squatter issue is an unfortunate thing. When I speak with one of my close business friend, he relates to me about the dreams that people have in coming to Bombay. And the tag was the city of gold. And people expect that they'll turn up there and gold will happen. Well, it didn't. And for most, it's just not a story that they want to relate further. I think it's the same thing with us. A lot of people come to Suva and come to the major centers in search of a better life, to come in search of better options, better education, better jobs. In fact, Vijay, I've known of instances where people have left better housing in their villages to come here and live in squatters so that they can ensure that their children attend a school, a prominent school in Suva, and they get a job, they're able to feed their family, all in the name of the search for a better life.
What will you do about it? What will you do about the squatter settlements?
The issue that we have to do is we have to reverse the situation. We have to create the opportunities for them where they live. We have to bring the standard of education that they came looking for in the city of Suva or in Lautoka. And people come and say, I want my child to go to Maris. You went to Maris.
No, I didn't go to Maris.
You didn't go to Maris. I want my child to go to grammar. I want my child to go to this boarding school. Why don't we bring that level of education, that level of diligence, that level of care to Lamosi Secondary School, to Nambala Secondary School, so that those who come in search of this, that's better education in Suva or in Lautoka, you're able to find it there. And for their parents, if you're able to create that environment back in the village, you're able to create some good templates of commercial farming, either be it in small families or in partnership, they will be able to do that a lot more and live in the villages in a more stable, in a more profitable situation than they would find.
So set up structures for them so that they feel better.
They would remain where they are.
Now, what is your stand on free tuition fees for primary and secondary school students, which is now in place? Will you continue with it?
The free education will continue. Free education will continue.
Everything that's happening at the moment?
Everything that's happening at the moment will continue. But more and above that.
So you're talking about reducing public debt, so you may have to look at certain things which you may have to reduce.
There's more to our education policy than just free education.
What more?
We want quality education. We want to make sure that we go over and above just simply providing free education, to making sure that those that we produce out of that education system are qualified sufficiently for the global market.
As you said earlier. Now, what about merit-based scholarship system? Do you go for that and the tertiary loan scheme? Some want the race-based scholarships back. What's OneFiji's view on this?
We got to understand, Vijay, that when we're dealing with scholarships, particularly in a nation like Fiji, there has to be a not just consideration of achievements. There's got to also be a consideration of the population distribution. If you have a race, or it's a Fijian race, that occupies a certain percentage of the population, then it would be fair, in our view, to have a scholarship distribution system that reflects that race distribution, right?
Okay, so if you go into government, you will change the system.
It'll have to be reviewed.
So what will be the system?
Will have to be reviewed.
People out there would want to know what system will you bring?
This is what we would want to propose. Is that you have the achievers, right? You have the top achievers, and then you have the scholarship that needs to be distributed along not just achievement, but also taking into consideration the racial percentage of our population.
So based on race?
Based on race. It has to be.
You are a successful Itoke person. You're a lawyer by profession. You have a law firm that you run. Wouldn't it be right to ensure that you're giving a message out to everyone out there that
yes.
you can be like me? Instead of let's do something along racial compartments?
Well, I'll have
some people are saying that. What do you think of that?
Well,
as a leader of the party, what's your comment on that?
I'll have to say, Vijay, that I'm one of the beneficiaries of the FAB scholarship. So that's the.
You wouldn't have gotten it if it wasn't there? You think you were good enough to have gotten any kind of scholarship?
Well, no, I didn't get it for the first 2 years. I got it 2 years after.
Okay.
Or the last 2 years of my law degree, and I had to struggle for the first 2 years, so that they could look and say, oh, there's somebody who's performing there.
So what about the other issue that people are saying, that it should be need-based? That's the other issue, because there's poor people in every community.
Oh, absolutely.
And we need to just set an income threshold and just get people to apply, and it's based on that, not based on race, based on income levels and performance. What do you think of that?
Well, we don't have to go just by one template. There has to be special conditions. If people are doing so well.
No, I'm asking it because you said based on race. Now I'm saying, what about based on income threshold? Because there's people living on or below the poverty line in every community. Should that be part of the criteria instead of
absolutely.
race?
Those who are performing well in schools but don't have the means to pay through the race.
Now you just have to clear that up for our listeners, because you said based on race, and now you agreeing to the income threshold issue. So which one do you think?
No, it doesn't have to be either or. You can devise a system where you can capture that component, while at the same time you're not losing out on those.
I'm sure the people listening out there, the ones who want to go and vote on September 17th, would want to know what's your specific stand on scholarships.
No. We're not saying that you either go need-based or you go on a percentage of race. You got to find that it will not be either here or there.
So
because if you don't,
the listeners out there who are listening, you don't have a position on that as yet.
No. You can merge this. You can have a template.
No, but I'm asking, do you have a position on it?
No. What we're saying is, you don't necessarily have to have one template. You can merge these templates and say, in this Fijian scholarship program, these are the criteria that we use. If you don't fit into this and you come as part of this, there's obviously something there for you. So it doesn't have to be just based on that.
Will that be specified in your manifesto?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, do you have any plans for cost of living? Some people are saying they will reduce VAT, others are saying it will stay, we're doing a good job, others are saying we'll look at certain things. What's your plan on cost of living?
With that, Vijay, we're challenging. OneFiji's position is we're challenging the citizens of this country. We're challenging our people. That we would sacrifice 2014 to 2018 to continue with our 15% VAT. But at the same time, we will identify your normal household items, right? And that's what we can say we would agree, or we would propose. They are to come VAT-free. Of course, the items will have to be identified by Parliament, and these are the normal household. We've done it once before. But for the remaining, those that are non-essential, those that are not need-based, those are the ones we're saying that we will continue with the 15% VAT, so that would not be able to create that gap in our revenue stream that goes into our government coffers. That cushions our debt level. That's what we're asking. We're going to ask the people that we're going to go out and meet, that we as a nation offer this as a 4-year sacrifice. Yeah, it will not so much as impact those who earn less, because they are going to be covered under the essential items listing that we would propose.
You'll expend the essential items.
Expend the essential items, and then make sure that they're able to afford.
And of course, that will be in your manifesto in the next few days. Now, do you believe in equal citizenry and equal opportunity for all?
Vijay, equal citizenry is covered under our Constitution. Equal citizenry is ensuring that every right in our Bill of Rights is afforded equally amongst every citizen in this country. That's important. That is for every democracy that seeks to thrive and say to the rest of the world that this is a democratic platform, or this is a democratic nation. They have to live up to their promises. It has to live up to the promises of the security of its citizens and the protection of its citizens to their Bill of Rights. I don't think that there is any point in derogating from that point.
Thank you very much. Now we've got a question from Nitesh in Raki Raki. Good evening, Nitesh, for calling in from Raki Raki.
Just a quick question to Mr. Vosarogo. Why should all Indians vote for Mr. Vosarogo if he is saying that Fijians are Fijians and other races are other races? Give us a good reason for us to vote for you. Thank you.
What's his name?
Nitesh.
Thank you, Nitesh. Nitesh,
you've addressed that issue already, so I won't give you much time.
I know. Nitesh, the point that I was making with Vijay earlier is race is a beautiful thing to embrace. We need to embrace our racial heritage. We need to embrace our historical paths. But it should never be confused with national identity. And that is the point that I was raising with Vijay earlier. We are all proud citizens of Fiji. You and I should be equally proud to be citizens of this nation.
But you cannot be called Fijian.
Well, I said to you, Vijay, Fijian belongs to a race.
Yes, thank you very much. I think you've already addressed that earlier. Now, what is your stand on equal distribution of land lease money? That has been changed. Some parties are saying they do not agree. OneFiji, what is the OneFiji party stand on it?
We're all for it.
We're all for it.
Yep.
Okay. Do you support the return of the Ngoli bill?
We haven't discussed it. It's not something that we are, not something that we're looking at addressing as a thrust of our policy going into 2014. We've got priority areas that we wanted to address.
What's the first thing you'll do if you go into government with another party, of course?
Well, economy is certainly something that we'll have to fix.
It's a big word.
It has to be, because that's the biggest part of our everyday living. At the end, it's the thing it's that one button that we hand to the next generation. That's the one button that we hand to the next.
Now, just in relation to the 2013 Constitution itself, do you support the Constitution? You're contesting the election under the Constitution?
Yeah. Every party is going to contest this election under the 2013 Constitution. Views about the Constitution will have to be resolved in the parliamentary process. And there is going to be a lot of views that's going to be proposed by different parties. But we are on the eve of the election, and I think we all have to appreciate that this is one chance we get, right, where we can summon a new spirit and bring together a new majority that will then push this nation to be what I think is possible. We can bring this nation again to what one of our forefathers had said, Fiji can become the way the world should be.
Now, as far as the Constitution is concerned, will you make changes? Will you support changes?
Vijay, in terms of priorities, we're going to have to look at this in terms of priorities. Let's prioritize what needs to be prioritized. Let's call number one. Let's look at the economy. Let's look at the employment. Let's look at housing and squatters. Let's look at new industries. Right? All of these things are in OneFiji's position. Very vital and very important for us to address first. Then we can go on to say
your priority list is there, and you've said some things about common name and other issues, which is in the Constitution. That's further down the priority list.
They can be resolved. They can be resolved later.
Okay, thank you. So you're going into the election just thinking of the economy as your main subject, and of course employment opportunities, education, and others. Now, you have 13 candidates. What is your realistic target? Don't tell me 13, or are you sure you'll get 13?
I can tell you 13 now.
I can see from your smile. Are you going for 13?
We're going for 13.
Definitely you're going for 13. You can't form government with 13.
Yes.
Now, you've sort of said, when I asked you about SODELPA, you said, you may go with SODELPA, you may go with PDP. You said NFP also?
All parties are open.
All parties? What about Fiji first?
All parties are open.
You're ready to talk with all parties?
All parties are open.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's our show for tonight. Straight Talk on Viti FM and Radio Sargam with OneFiji Party President and Leader, Mr. Filimoni Vosarogo. And of course, he's laid out a lot of issues very clearly tonight. Of course, and as he says that the party's manifesto will be coming out within the next few days. So those who have heard about the different issues that have been discussed, our stand over here is that we'll bring the parties, we'll question them about their stand and make you or help you make the right decision in ensuring that when you go to cast your vote on September 17th, you have no doubts about which party has what stand regarding what issue, to ensure that you are well versed, well educated, well informed on what the different parties are talking about when they come to the different policies that they are stating that they will have come elections. And of course, the next step after the elections, when they do form government and if they do go into parliament, to ensure that then the next phase begins, which is a big one, to hold them accountable for what they've said, to ensure that they deliver on their promises. And as I said earlier, that the big day is now Sunday, the announcement of the national candidates list, when the candidates' names with their numbers will be drawn at Grand Pacific Hotel in Suva. And of course, we'll bring you all the details about that. But tomorrow night, we've got another leader, an interesting one, Fiji Labour Party leader Mahendra Chaudhry, whose nomination has been rejected. So he is not contesting the election, but he has maintained that he will take the Fiji Labour Party into the elections. We'll have him here tomorrow night, starting at 7 p.m. Stay with us for that.
Jarvis, status report.
I'm sorry, sir. We've lost auxiliary power. Shutdown sequence initiated.
Don't do this to me, Jarvis. Just a little further.
Negative, sir. My components